There are a lot of things that I learned, negative and positive, on this journey of taking care or choosing to raise someone else's kids, especially from small age. When the kids are little, you can raise them and all they'll know is you as their parent, until you feel like, they're at an appropriate age to understand, when you decide to explain to them, how you ended up with them. And so on the journey, I learned a lot of, uh, well, I could say for me, negative or choices that other people decide to make that actually made sometimes things difficult between the dynamics of me and one of the children that I, you know, decided to raise. Um, People like that, they don't take into consideration how that person that's raising that child, how they're gonna feel, how it's gonna affect them. They don't give that person or that parent the opportunity to, you know, um, inform that child of whatever information they need to know as they get older. Because personally, I feel that when a child is small, you can tell them that you're not their biological parent, and they either not gonna remember, depending on what age they are, or it's not gonna quite register. But for me, I've learned that the most important thing that them people that choose to go run and tell something just because they feel like, oh, I'm gonna go tell, that child because I know that person that's raising them is not telling them that they not their mother or their father and that they are this. The one thing that people like that don't take into consideration when they think they're helping the child, they're actually hurting the child when they don't understand that child's mental level. Now, what I mean by that is, if the kids are smaller, they can go and tell that child that, and it will probably confuse them. Some kids may get it depending on the age, but when you're dealing with a child that's um have mental challenges, it don't have to be anything like very severe, but with mental health, there are certain ways that you have to explain things to people, that do struggle mentally, through daily. You you can't just go to them and tell them that if they're a literal thinker or if they don't comprehend. And it just confuses them and you don't know where they're at in their, in their heart or in their mind at, whatever age they are, that could cause them to become angry. And the majority of the time, my experience has been that I'm on the receiving end of that anger. And these people get to walk home and go away, but they don't get to see that child crying, not understanding why they parent chose not to keep them. They don't see that child crying and leaving that standing parent to have to explain to that child how much they are loved or try to help them to figure out what was going on during the time that they, were removed from their parent. They don't get to see that child going through emotional phases that sometimes is draining for both the child and the parent. But to just take the parent off of the table, because they're so focused on, oh, I gotta go tell the child. I gotta go tell the child and let the child know that, they ain't they parent, and oh, I gotta let them know this about their parent. Like giving the child too much information. You don't learn about that when you're taking foster care classes. You don't learn about that by someone coming to tell you, oh, when you know, raise another person's child, or if you adopt a child, or however you end up with the child. They don't, no one will tell you because they don't understand the depths of it. It's easy to tell someone, oh, everything's going to be fine. I'm here to support you, I'm here to help you. But they don't even know what type of support you're going to need. So, how can they help you? Especially if they don't have the resources or the knowledge on, like, how to. I had to learn. I had to learn the hard way, I'll say. Because, like I said, the people that want to hurry up and run and tell that child, they don't even give that stand-in parent an opportunity to have a conversation with that child. And for me, I wish I could have had that opportunity to wait until my child was older, where I felt like, they would be able to sit with the information that I would give them. I never had any intentions or the heart of mind to not tell them, because I didn't think it would be fair to them. And eventually, in the back of my mind, I always thought, when my child was small, I used to always think, before their mother, was murdered, I used to always think that somebody from that side of the family, or maybe somebody that the mother had grew up with, would just blurt it out, or take an opportunity to be like, well, she's not your mom. And on several occasions, that has happened. That has happened. Literally, someone has came to my child and told them, well, she's not your mom. Because I had my child since they were one, and growing up, all they knew was me as mommy. And there was a time when I had to meet with their mother, and we both sat down and explained to the child when they were, I want to say, maybe 3. And the way that they processed it was, and it was so cute. They were like, so your mommy looking at me, and your mama looking at their mother. And we both looked at each other and just laughed and was like, yeah, because we knew that, that was the best that we could do at that time, to get a 3-year-old to understand. But all that child ever understood was, this person loves me. It wasn't a big deal. It wasn't challenging at all during that time. But then after their mother passed away, it was then, certain family members that I allowed to be around them, because by their mother request, she didn't really want them around certain people. So I tried to honor that the best I could. But I just, I don't know. I think it's real selfish. And I'm speaking directly to those of you that feel like it's so necessary for you to go and run and tell something concerning a situation that you have absolutely no clue. No clue. Because you don't care how it's going to make someone like me, the stand-in parent. You don't care about how it's going to make me feel. So let's not even discuss that. Let's discuss the child that you're so concerned about, that you got to go run and tell. And oh my God, they need to know, because you assume that that stand-in parent not going to do that. And some stand-in parents don't, and I get it, because you're nervous that, when the child gets a certain age, you're fighting with when it's going to be the appropriate time to tell that child, because you don't know how that child is going to receive that information, and you may have a little fear that that child is going to love you less, or that they're not going to want to, have anything to do with you. You're even afraid that one day because you put so much love into that child, you're gonna feel like, oh my God, it's gonna hurt so much if they tell me, well, you can't tell me what to do because you're not my parent, or I wish my parent was here instead of you. Been through that too. But I love my kids. I love them. And yeah, I have hard times, sometimes. But looking back, I wouldn't have made a different decision because I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from both of them, and not just about them and how to communicate with them and what's the best way to raise them, but I've learned a lot about myself and things that I worked on or felt like I could do better in, just as a person, and as a standing parent, but my heart really just saying parent, whatever. But yeah, before y'all go and decide, because what, information you have, and I'm not saying that you don't know, but before you decide to go and tell, oh, I gotta go tell, you don't. It's not even your place. It's not. It's not your place to go and disturb that child's life in that way. It's not even fair to them. You're not helping that child. You're not doing that child a service by running and telling them something that you haven't even sat and thought where they're at mentally, if they have any mental challenges. Because mental challenges don't come in a look. You can't just look at a person and be like, oh yeah, they got mental issues. Because mental challenges show up in different ways. Shows up in different ways. Thank God that I was put in a position where I could have the opportunity to learn and understand, and not too long ago really fully understanding what the main challenge is for my child. Something simple as comprehension. We learned that in school. And then I thought about it and I was like, okay, so if it's the comprehension that's making things seem difficult or causing a misunderstanding, then that means I have to change the way that I share information with my child. But you wouldn't know that if you don't have the experience, because you're so eager to go tell. All you're doing, where you think you're helping and doing that person a favor, all you are doing is hurting that child more. You're making it difficult for them, because you're not going to be there when that child get angry because that standing parent didn't have an opportunity to tell that child. So then that child sit then and think, you kept this from me. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't have an opportunity to tell you. Thank God that my child loves me enough to know my heart and my intentions. Thank God that my child understands that, okay, yeah, this person is telling me this, but I'm going to go check with mommy. Ask why. And even then, it still was hard. Heartbreaking to have to sit there and explain. Which then you can't even just explain just that one specific thing that they was told, because then it leads to other questions that that child is not ready to hear. Because you ain't even got time to process how you're gonna explain this to this child where they can understand it and it not affect their heart in such a way that they grow up angry, that they grow up feeling like Nobody loved them when they get disciplined by the stand-in parent. Because when you discipline your child, you talk to them through love, but if you're angry with them, sometimes your words don't come out right. And if they don't understand what you're saying, something as simple, for example, something as simple as saying, stop acting like you're a child, or stop, no, not even that. Something like, stop acting like you're crazy. How you think a child that's dealing with mental challenges is gonna comprehend that? What that look like for them, especially if they're a literal thinker. That's another thing that the people don't think about. To them, they hear, oh, you calling me crazy. I'm not crazy. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying stop acting like you're crazy. But you're calling me crazy. How do you navigate through that? How do you navigate through that? And like I said, the people that want to go run and tell something, you selfish. You ain't doing nobody a favor. You doing what some people do. Is just like when people do something nice for somebody and they got the phone recording it and post it just so that they can get likes. That's what you're doing. For yourself. Not for the child. Not even remotely close for the child. It is not your place to tell nothing. It's not your place. I don't care if you're related to that child. I don't care if you knew that child parents. It is not your place to tell nothing, because you don't understand the dynamics. You didn't take the time to go to that stand-in parent to find out where that child is at mentally. You didn't take the time to think, well, is this a good time to even bring that information to the child? Where's the child at in a emotional state where they're able to receive the information and not make things worse in that household that child's living in? Yeah, that is one of the many things that I've had to deal with. And like I said, I love my kids. With all the craziness that be going on, with all the ups and downs, with all the hard times, all the phone calls, all the crying from both of us, all the yelling and screaming. And I'm learning as a parent, you're not always going to make the best decisions. You're not always going to make the right decisions, especially if you don't have the tools that you need to raise a child. And another thing, when it comes to parents, that I had to learn, when you're a parent, you only can do, or you only can give what you have. If you don't have the tools because of how you were raised or what you experienced, if you don't have the tools necessary, then sometimes you can do more bad than good in raising your child until you figure it out. I had to figure it out. Thank God that now we're all in a good space and we've had to deal with a lot of challenges, but we are in a really good space right now. But I just wanted to share some of my experience, and there'll probably be more, but I just wanted to share some of my experience concerning raising someone else's child, whether that's through adoption, whether that's through foster, whether that's through guardianship, whether that's through custody, whether that's through just someone saying, can you hold down my child until I get myself together and I'll be back for them, which was my case. Some of it, anyway. But yeah, I didn't mean for this video to be super long. I realized I haven't like really had time to express how I feel, being concerned with my child and taking into consideration that how can you tell your truth when your truth is tied in with someone else's truth, because it's not my place to tell her truth, or it's not my place to tell his truth. But yeah, I just wanted people to know, because I understand that there are other people that's going through what I had to experience. And, even having small kids, not understanding why they make the decisions they make, why they do what they do, why they, you know, do things differently from other kids. But I do want to end this with encouragement. For the stand-in parents, kudos to you. You may be tired. You may sometimes be angry. You may sometimes question God. Why is things happening? Because they didn't work out the way that you thought they were when you first made the decision to, you know, love someone else's child. Everything's going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. You're going to figure it out, and things will start to smooth out eventually. And I have to say that me saying that things will smooth out doesn't mean that there won't be more bumpy bumps in the road along the way. But it's all learning. You're learning how to love that child the way that they need to be loved. And in the process, you will also learn how to be stronger, how to be calmer. You will also learn how to love yourself and see people differently. For the most part, in times when I should have had just went off and fussed everybody out, I just sit with it. And now I'm finally in a space where I can talk about it and not allow my emotions to get in the way of encouraging other people. You're gonna be fine. Tips that I may have for those of you that are raising small kids or children with mental health challenges, um, I would say pay attention to when they start school. The teachers, they pretty much can tell you, if you don't already know, they can pretty much tell you if your child is showing signs of mental health challenges. And like I said, it's various ones, and it'll take time for you to figure out or pinpoint exactly what your child is dealing with, which is helpful. So if you have to go to um, a mental health facility for your child, and you're told that you have to put your child on medication, and to help them focus, and you need to get your child in therapy, do that for them. I still struggle with it, the decision of having to put your child on medication, because it's like, it sometimes feel like it's only a temporary fix, and the amount of medication that you have to keep switching out until you figure out the right one, and watching your child go through the side effects that no one else gets to see, because sometimes it'll feel like the other people outside of in your household just want the children on medication so that they can be able to deal with them. But that's for another day. But yeah, my tip would be, when they start school, and like I said, the teachers will let you know what they assessment is, and also pay attention to their subjects. What do they struggle in school? And if they struggle in reading, because I think every school gives reading and comprehension tests, and then they'll send like a paper or whatever to let you know what their levels are in reading and what their levels are in comprehension. Pay close attention to comprehension, because that will help you as the parent understand. If they scoring low, that'll help you better understand, okay, my child is having problems with comprehension. I need to figure out a way to better communicate with them in a way that they will understand. Comprehension is very important, because if the child is reading a story and you ask them questions, what was the story about, and they don't tell you what the story actually was about, but they tell you how they comprehend it, where it doesn't really match with the story because they just telling you what they think it was talking about, then that's something to consider. Pay close attention to that, because that's another, I hate to call it red flag, but that's the only thing I think of right now. But that could be a red flag to let you know, okay, my child is having difficulty comprehending what they're reading. So the effect to that is that when they are engaged in a conversation with their peers, with the parent, with anybody, if they're engaged in a conversation, someone could say something, and if they get offended, it's because they didn't understand what that other person was saying in the conversation, and it wasn't meant in a malicious way, but they took it that way because they didn't understand or comprehend what that person was trying to say. So if you can figure that out, then it'll be easier on you as the parent, because then you can be their voice in that moment and be like, okay, this is what they meant to, relay the message to your child, so that your child can understand, and then figure out ways how to get your child to better comprehend, because that's going to be very, very, very important. That was one of the things that we struggle with and still struggle with, but because I now know, it's easier for me to communicate with my child when something happens, and she also understands that, okay, I don't understand this, so let me ask. There are ways to better help your child when they're smaller. That way, hopefully by the time they become a teen, things won't be as difficult. But for me, I didn't have all of the resources that I needed. I definitely didn't have um, a support system in a way that I could go to somebody and they can like tell me if I had a question about something that I didn't understand, that I can go to them and be like, look, this is what's going on, and I don't know how to deal with this, I don't know how to explain this, and then they can tell me, okay, you can do this. I just had to like figure it out as I go. And like I said, the therapy classes well, I ain't gonna say classes, but the therapy sessions for your child, you also can use them for yourself if they allow you to sit in, because you can learn how to better communicate with your child. And not only that, it'll help you better communicate with people in general. I think that's why now I'm a lot more patient than what I used to be, because I'm able to just think past the situation. But anyway, this video is already super long. I may do another one just to like give insight, more tips, and um my ideas on how to navigate through being a stand-in parent, on being an adoptive parent, on being a parent of children with mental health challenges and special needs children. You know, I think I've learned a lot of good things that I could maybe help someone else. But yeah, till next time, people. And for those of you that like to go tell, it's not your place. Y'all be blessed.